Over the last few weeks, we've watched a steady flow of U.S. aircraft moving towards the Middle East. Fighters forward deploying, tankers filling the map, strategic airlift moving at a pace we don't usually see outside major operations, or at least build up to major operations. And yet, one aircraft normally shows up early in these situations, and it has not appeared yet, at least according to open source reporting. A lot of plane spotters out there, and it's tough for planes to move around without being seen today. That aircraft is the F-22, and its absence is interesting. Not because it's alarming, but I think it tells us something about how the U.S. military currently views the threat environment around Iran, or potentially the timeline for an operation to kick off, depending on how they want to utilize the F-22. When people think about Iran, and I know I definitely think this of Iran, or at least I did when I was an F-16 pilot, it's a high-end threat environment. Layered defenses, ballistic missiles, drones, contested airspace with advanced surface-air missile systems, radar warnings, etc. And in fighter pilot shorthand or fighter pilot think, that usually translates to where are my F-22s, where are my 5th gen assets, be able to handle this contested environment. Now, we saw the F-16 operate and do very well during Operation Midnight Hammer. But Big Brother, the Raptor, was there to handle any air threats as well as some ground threats. Raptors usually show up early, or at least before the party starts. And it's used there for air dominance, especially when we want air dominance, which as the Air Force, that's what we want to do. We want to do it early and we want to do it often. Right now, we're clearly seeing posturing. We're moving a lot of iron into the theater. Fighters are forward deployed. Tankers have flown. Heavy airlift is moving. That's moving parts, weapons, supplies, and it's doing it at scale. Open source reporting estimates that more than 45 C-17 movements in the region in just the last few days alone, which is not just background noise. That is significant and deliberate intent when it comes to the logistics supply chain. We're also seeing a significant fighter presence, multiple F-15E squadrons in theater, 3 of which to be specific. And that is something that I think is relatively historic, something you don't really see unless it's a major operation getting ready to kick off. We saw that in the kickoff of Desert Storm, Operation Iraqi Freedom, and even Operation Midnight Hammer. We're having multiple squadrons of the same type aircraft move into theater. And that Strike Eagle brings a whole bunch of gas, which equals range, not to mention a large payload, which means it can hang out for a long time. It can have really long arm and reach when it comes to delivering weapons. And as much as it pains me to say, the Strike Eagle is great when it comes to defensive counter-air, strike rolls, etc. And then near and dear to my heart, we have F-16s, which have come out of Aviano Air Base. Now, these F-16s aren't SEAD F-16s, suppression of enemy air defenses. These are Block 40s out of Aviano. They're great at air-to-ground and air-to-air, and increasingly, they have proven themselves in the counter-UAS mission. This piece matters because they have brought the AGR-20 Advanced Precision Kill Weapon System. That's a laser-guided rocket. This is a low-cost, high-volume asset that these fighters can carry to target, and they can shoot down the masses of enemy one-way attack drones. Layer this together, and you have a force that can project power. It can deter, it can defend, and it can sustain with some flexibility. What we don't quite have in this, though, is the air dominance piece. All these players can do air-to-air to a certain extent, but the Raptor really excels in that. Even F-35Cs that are coming off the carrier strike group, while good at it, they are not like the Raptor. And I shouldn't say good, they're not great at it like the Raptor. Coming from an F-16, being the jack of all trade, master of none, you're doing a lot of things and a lot of complex things. The Raptor's doing one thing, and it's owning that air picture. The ability to enter contested airspace at the time of our choosing against a capable adversary and immediately dictate what happens next, that's something that the F-22 brings to the fight. And while it would have been amazing to keep the F-22 line open or buy 700 plus of them, we didn't do that. So these things are not designed just to be put on for a show. There's just not enough of them. The fleet is maintenance intensive, and you again have a limited number of resources, so you don't just fly them to fly them. You fly them when the demand needs them, or when the threat dictates that they need to be there, or someone needs to know that we can reach out and touch them if need be. We definitely saw this in high-end operations like Operation Midnight Hammer, or recently Absolute Resolve. The F-22 was used to shape the air picture early, quietly, and decisively. Those were the environments where controlling the air immediately mattered more than signaling, i.e. just flying around the flagpole. There's also a historic example that illustrates better than any white paper. In 2013, an Iranian F-4 launched to intercept a U.S. drone operating near the Iranian airspace. From the Iranian pilot's perspective, this was a fairly routine intercept, and they were going out there going to harass this drone or get some pictures, whatever it might be. What they didn't know is that an F-22 was already there, escorting the drone. The best part of the story is the Raptor pilot flew in close, unseen, unheard, and inspected the Iranian jet before he pulled up alongside of them, calmly and coolly, indicating that the F-4 probably should go home. And the Iranians did exactly that. No missiles were shot, no radar warnings, no spectacle, just control and dominance without firing a single shot. That's why the F-22 exists. And that is just a piece of what it can provide. And the context about this matters when we talk about the absence today, because absence does not mean inability and doesn't mean unavailability. The Air Force always maintains at least one F-22 squadron on short notice deployment status. So if the decision was made today, tomorrow, I guarantee you a squadron of Raptors would be moving across the country and then the ocean. They would launch within the day, transit across the ocean. They would have to stop prior to getting to the Middle East, rest, bed down for the night, and do it again the next day. They could quickly get into this fight within a matter of a couple of days. And I think it would be an indicator if things are about to get serious if we see Big Brother flying over across the pond to jump into the fight. So the question is, why haven't we seen this yet? And I think that brings us to potentially two compelling ways to interpret what we're seeing right now. One argument says that conditions are favorable for a decisive action. Internal pressure inside Iran has definitely changed the regime's ability to react and manage an adversary attacking them. Military posture definitely has a shelf life, deterrence, credibility, all these matter. And the longer you wait, the more an adversary has time to adapt, to disperse their equipment, harden, evade, and try and shape the narrative. The absence of the F-22 could simply reflect confidence. The current force mix may be assessed to be sufficient. We've seen fourth-generation aircraft operate inside Iran. Operation Midnight Hammer. It worked out well. We do have other fifth-gen assets on station, F-35s. They could handle that low observable need when we're assessing their contested pieces of the Iranian airspace. It's probably fair to say that they're significantly degraded from what they once were. You bring in F-15s with mass, naval, aviation, cyber, and space, plus some F-16s, you have a formidable force where the Raptors might not be needed. Again, I think this would be fairly abnormal. Being a fighter pilot, I want the F-22 there. The counter argument would be that external pressure can also unify internal factions, albeit I think this is probably a stretch given from what we've seen, what the Iranian regime is doing to its people. They're probably not going to garner a whole lot of support with an outside invader, if you will, or outside force that's attacking. But maybe it could expand or ignite a conflict that spills over regionally and creates second and third order effects that are harder controlled than just the initial strikes would be themselves. And from this perspective, having some restraint might be some risk management, and keeping the F-22 outside of the visible picture is a piece of the framework and preserves some leverage. It also, I think, helps avoid the U.S. from a narrative of imminent escalation. Keeps options open across multiple theaters, not just this one. Because I think once the Raptors move forward, the signal definitely changes. Quietly or not, which the Raptor is going to do it somewhat quietly, it definitely signals about what's going to happen or could happen. The absence of the F-22, I think, fits the logic that when it's time, that capability you introduce to the mix means you're ready to commit to shaping the air environment decisively, quickly, and without prejudice. And you're not doing this while you're trying to manage the escalation or options. If that calculus shifts, or the threat picture shifts, or the game plan shifts, and dominance becomes the name of the game, I think we'll see Raptors move relatively quickly. And if they do, again, I think this is going to be a meaningful signal if they depart one of their bases heading that direction. I think this is an important takeaway, and this is something that caught my eye. You know, when it comes to the posturing, sometimes what you don't see can also be just as informative. Now, time will only tell when we're talking about this environment. Until next time.